everyone. Hello, how are you today? My name is Makeda Valletta, also known as the Renaissance Amazon and the Body Scientist. I'm currently live on my IG page, and I'll be saving it and reposting it to my YouTube. So, in case you're unfamiliar with me, I am a strength and conditioning coach. I am a sports nutritionist. I am a dancer of various sorts, a sacred sexual educator, okay? And I study all the ways we can take our body to its highest level. So everything that I do physically is to build on that goal, my goal, okay? Of taking my body to its highest level. And I haven't peaked yet, okay? Still a work in progress. So today I wanted to speak about the challenges of pole dancing, okay? So there's so many things that I want to talk about. I have this long list, so hopefully I don't forget. And hey Remy, how are you? And I'm drinking my shake, right? I just finished practicing for about maybe 9 hours and 45 minutes, right? So pole is a straight strength workout. If you haven't seen my video on my other page, The Body Scientist, I have a video talking about the importance of strength training, okay? Strength training. Different than going outside and jogging and swimming, okay? Strength training is puts more stress on your muscles, and I will explain it in a second, but let me just take a sip. Now, when you strength train, when you work out, period, is muscle damage, right? Okay, can you guys hear me and see me now? It was saying that my video was paused, so hopefully you can hear me and see me. So, anyhow, back to what I was saying. When you strength train, strength training is defined by something where you can't do more than 15 reps of, okay? So if you're doing 100 squats, that's not strength training. That's muscular endurance training, okay? When you're strength training, it's something that you can't do more than 15 times. And this is the reason why there's something called progressive overload, which means that, let's say today, you can only do 10 push-ups, right? And you're done. And then you keep doing it. And then in a couple of weeks, you can do 20 push-ups. Well, now, if you're actually trying to build strength, you need to make that push-up harder. So you can, you want to make it harder so that you can only do 15 again, right? If you're working on muscular strength. So the ways you can make it harder, you can do it slower. You can do it where you're going down for 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, holding it, and then going up for 4 or 5 seconds. Okay, do it slower and make it a lot harder. You can do clap push-ups. You can do one-arm push-ups. Okay, so there's ways that you make things harder. Okay, as you get stronger. That's what you're doing when you're strength training. Then muscular endurance is when you can do several reps of something over and over again. That's training your muscular endurance. It's two different things, right? So when you're strength training, and that could be lifting weights or it could be on the pole, because honestly, a lot of the stuff on the pole, like, I can't do it over and over again. And that's the thing that was challenging about being an instructor. I used to teach pole. I mean, I'm still a pole instructor. I'm just not currently teaching. But when you're teaching, you have to, not only do you have to make up choreography, figure out what you're going to teach your students. Then when you go teach, you have to demonstrate the move. First, you have to demonstrate it at the regular pace. Then you demonstrate it a few times slowly while you're speaking to them, explaining verbally while you're showing them physically, step by step, how to execute each move. Then the student might want to see it again. So you might have to do it a few times. And then, teaching, and then you also have to train on your own outside of teaching. So when I was teaching, I was on the pole a lot, right? So I had a lot more endurance. So a lot of people can say like, oh, you look good, but I'm telling you, I'm nowhere near as strong, okay? Nowhere near as strong as I was even 4.5 years ago when I moved to Chicago, okay? Because I'm not on the pole like I used to be. But when you first start out, just doing like one move or 2 moves takes the life out of you. Then you have to rest for like a few minutes. Then you do it again. And you might only be able to do it a couple of times, 3 times. But the more you do it, the more you're able to do, right? So this is my protein shake, right? I also have a video on my YouTube page the Body Scientist 81 talking about protein shakes. Another one talking about protein powder, right? So I never use protein powder. I don't believe in protein powder. I am a sports nutritionist, certified by the ISSN, which is the International Society for Sports Nutrition. I've been a sports nutritionist since like 2004, okay? But my approach to sports nutrition is not, Gatorade and protein powder and nutrition bars. I don't do none of that shit. I do real food. So my protein shakes, okay, I make them with raw milk. So the shake that I'm just drinking right now, I put raw grass-fed milk, vanilla kefir, grass-fed kefir. I put 2 egg yolks, okay. I put frozen papaya and a banana and some gelatin powder. Actually, I meant to bring some gelatin powder. And I did that because, whey protein is the best protein for muscle recovery and muscle building. I'm going to go through this quickly because I'm going to do a more scientific video on my other page, The Body Scientist 81. So this video, I didn't want to get so much into that. So I'm going to go through this quick and get back to my list. So the whey protein is the best protein for muscle building and muscle recovery. This is why you see a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of athletes, they use whey protein powder, right? Whey protein naturally occurs in milk. So you can just, but you want fast absorbing protein, and not all protein is going to help with muscle building and muscle recovery. Like protein in beans is not going to do it, right? You have the whey protein and egg protein. Egg protein is like the most bioavailable protein in the yolks, not the whites, the yolks, okay? Also, the fats that are in the grass-fed raw milk and egg yolks, like they're MCT fats and they're fats to help you burn fat, okay? You also need the fat to digest the protein. You also need the fat for vitamins A and D, which is also in the egg yolks and in the milk. And vitamins A and D is critical for your immune system and so many things with your health, but vitamin A is critical even with muscle building. And this is the reason why you don't want to consume lean proteins, like when people eat lean meat with no fat on it, or they're consuming low-fat milk. You don't want to do that because the protein without the fat, it causes vitamin A deficiencies, okay? So I'm not going to get super into that. I'm going to do that on my other page. But that's why I put these things in there. Then the bananas and the papaya, you need some carbohydrates too after a strength workout, okay? While I was dancing on the pole, I was sipping on this coconut water. This is coconut water with pink lady apple, made by Harmless Harvest. It's raw, right? And this has 701 milligrams of potassium, and it has magnesium and phosphorus, some sodium, and 45 milligrams of sodium, 23 milligrams of carbohydrates. So you need sodium, potassium, and carbohydrates when you're working out. You especially need the sodium and potassium when you're sweating. When I'm on the pole, I don't sweat. But you still need the carbohydrates because that's what your muscles utilize when you're working out. Doesn't matter if you're doing aerobic, anaerobic, endurance, strength, you need to consume some carbohydrates, right? So I don't sip on water when I'm working out in the gym or on the pole or anything else, but this helps me get through it, right? So anyhow, to get back to the point, right? Because this video wasn't supposed to be the scientific one. That's going to be my other video. So those are the things that I have to make sure I'm hydrated, keep sipping on stuff. I'll do something, and I post certain things on IG, but like I might post a couple minutes out of like an hour of practice, and there's so many times that I might do something and I can't do it today, and I gotta let my body rest, because right now my arms feel like they're gonna fall off, right? So when they feel like that, and then you let them rest a couple days, when you come back, you're always stronger. And that's the thing about pole, why I think so many women get addicted to it, because it's hard as fuck, and a lot of it is super painful, but you actually gain strength quickly if you stay at it, right? So you're gonna see me as I get better, because I've fallen off my shit, because I'd be traveling all the time. And years ago when I used to travel, I used to always find pole studios in every city I went to. I trained at studios in LA, in Miami, in Atlanta, in DC, Chicago. I live in Chicago now, but before I lived in Chicago, when I came here, I used to go to studios, New York, everywhere. I used to go to studios. I don't do that anymore. I don't teach anymore. So I'm not on the pole like I used to be. So I'm like, and then I gained 20 pounds. So The thing about the pole, people say it's a full body workout, but it's really an upper body workout. It doesn't really work your legs like that, okay? It works your upper body, and it's especially your back and your arms. It's a lot of pulling up, definitely a lot of core, because everything you do is a lot of core, everything. But on the pole, especially like when it's spinning, there's a force. It's like, I don't know if it's centrifugal force, but it feels like the pole is trying to throw you off. So in order to control yourself, you have to really squeeze your abs, you have to really engage your muscles a certain way, right? The thing about it is, and I don't know, this is why I say all respect to black strippers. If anybody knows the answer to this question, and I've known strippers before, I don't know why, I still don't know the answer to this, because I've gotten some answers, but I still don't get it, right? Because I know for me, and maybe I need to ask more of my girls in the pole dance world who are, watching this, please let me know, especially if you're black in particular. Because like right now, I just moisturize, right? My skin is so much nicer when it's moisturized, even the way the light hits it. But I can't now get on the pole with this on my skin. And if I were going to go on the pole, I would have to get in the shower, scrub all this off with soap, scrub it all off. Even with my hands, if I were to go wash my hands in the sink right now, it wouldn't even be enough. My hands would still be oily, right? And then I try to grip the pole and you just slide. A lot of things in the pole are scary, okay? There's a lot of things that still scare me that's just basic, because I'm not trying to fall and bump my head. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like safety. Generally, all the things that I've done, I played a lot of sports in my life, but everything I've done, I felt like was on the safer end of sports, right? Like, I played basketball. Basketball is probably like the most violent sport I played. But then, I ran track. I played a little bit of softball, fenced a little, and then I danced a lot, but I wasn't a gymnast. I wasn't flipping off of, balance beams where you land the wrong place, you could end up with really jacked up. I wasn't ski jumping off of hills. Some sports, there's a huge injury risk. In some sports, the injury risks that you can get, they're huge injuries. Like, if you're a snowboarder, you could break your clavicle or break your hip. If you're running track, the worst thing that could happen to you is a torn hamstring, right? So, basketball does have a high concussion rate. Thankfully, I never had a concussion. But I feel like those are like the safer end of sports, right? So with pole, a lot of shit in pole is dangerous, okay? There's a lot of things that still scares me, and I'm years and years in. There's things that I don't want to do unless I'm in the studio, because my pole, and I actually just ordered a new pole, just made of a different material, but my pole is a little bit slippery. When I'm in the studio, the poles to me are not as slippery, so I can do more, and they're higher, right? So when the poles are higher, you climb up. The reason why women climb up the pole is not just to be cute. It's because when you're doing trick after trick, each time you do a trick, you drop down, you slide down, right? You start sliding. Hold on a minute. Let me see what people are saying. You start sliding, right? And I have long limbs. A lot of people ask me how tall I am. I'm 5'8", but I have the limbs of a 6-foot person. My legs and my arms are longer than a 5'8" person, right? They're literally 6 feet, people, arms and legs, right? So my ceiling is like 9 feet. If I had a 12-foot ceiling, I could do so much more. 12, 13 feet, I could do so much more, right? That's why I kind of always wanted to live in New Orleans. Cause I'm like, I could get a beautiful apartment. I like the wood floors, I like the old shit, but I like high ceilings, I like balconies. New Orleans got super high ceilings. As a polar, if I'm ever someplace where somebody got ceilings that high, all I think about is they must be the perfect place to have a pole. Like, I could really do a lot if I had really high ceilings. The low ceilings are hard when you have long limbs, and it's just harder to control your body when you have long limbs, all right? So, and then for me, I'm bottom heavy. So a lot of times when I do see pole dancers who are really tall, I've actually known pole dancers who are taller than me and their limbs are shorter than mine. Like, I remember this one instructor I studied with in New York. She was taller than me. She might have been like 5'11", but her arms are shorter than mine. Her arms are short and stocky, and she had broad shoulders, and she didn't have a booty and hips, right? So she was broad up here and narrow down here. I'm narrow up here and broad here. So if I'm pulling myself up, my long thin arms have to pull up all this weight. Or if I go upside down and like I used to practice my handstands and my headstands, I've fallen off of that. I need to get back on that. But that's hard for me to balance all of this on these arms, right? So those are challenges that, pole has so many different components. right? There's so many different components. So you have the fact that you have floor work, right? Floor work is something that I've stayed away from a lot because, first of all, I need space, right? I don't really have the space that I need. I feel like anytime I'm in any dance class, even when I do like Afro-Caribbean stuff, the Haitian shit that I do, the Afro-Cuban shit that I do, there's moves where your arms are flying, you know what I'm saying? Your legs might be jumping out, you're moving across the floor. I always feel like I don't have enough space, okay? Because my body is explosive. I do jump high. I run fast. I can jump a far distance, you know what I'm saying? So if I'm really expressing myself to my fullest potential, I need space, right? And that's with every kind of dance that I do. So with the pole, and that's why, like when you see me dance, hey Goddess Asha, when you see me dance on the pole, you see me do spin pole, right? There's two types of pole. There's spin pole and there's static pole. Static pole, that's what you see strippers do in the strip club. The pole is not spinning, right? And there's a different technique to that, right? Then you have spin pole where the pole is spinning. Thank you. Where the pole is spinning, it's a different technique. But when the pole is not spinning, when it's static, if you're trying to, because when the pole is static, there's still moves that women do where their body spins around the pole, right? But in order to do that, you have to throw yourself, the biomechanics of it, you have to throw yourself away from the pole and then come in to get those type of spins. When you're doing spin pole, you don't have to do that. You actually stay close to the pole and you kind of step into it. You step into it, okay, and get close to the pole, and that makes it spin really quick. So you need less space basically when you're doing spin pole. So for me, I don't do static pole a lot because I don't have the space in my apartment that I need to do a lot of that stuff, right? So then, you have the poles can be different sizes. I think pole standards in strip clubs were 50 millimeters. Those are the fatter poles, and I used to like those the most. When I first started poling, I preferred the bigger ones, right? But 45 millimeter poles are the more popular ones. When I first started poling, a lot of studios would have both. They would have 50 and 45s. And sometimes they would say that 50s are better for girls with bigger hands, people with bigger hands, and 45 is better for small hands. And there's pros and cons of them. But now you don't really see 50s anymore, so it's 45. So I got used to the 45s. My poles are 45. But then they also make 42. And I'm not sure if they make 40. And I think, to my understanding, that might be in Europe. I've never used a 42 millimeter pole that's really thin, right? So the size of the pole makes a difference too. So this is the thing in terms of how you can execute moves and how easy it is. So, and it's interesting because it reminds me of hold on a minute, I have to sneeze. Hold on one second. Excuse me. Sorry. It reminds me of things that I teach with the nani eggs. I don't know if you're familiar with my nani egg work, but it's teaching women how to work with crystal and stone eggs internally, vaginally, doing different exercises to get strength in the pelvic floor and the vaginal muscles and get control. But I always said it's good to work with different size eggs because different sizes offer different challenges, different benefits and challenges. So to really increase your strength, awareness, and control in different positions, it's good to work with different sizes, right? Just like when moving your hips. It's one thing to move your hips when you're standing up, but can you move your hips on your knees? Or can you move your hips in a squat position? Or can you move your hips in a headstand? You know what I'm saying? All of that requires a different level of muscle activation and execution. The same thing is true when it comes to the size of the poles, right? So you could be real good in a 45 and then something bigger, you can't do it. So that's why when you see people who are, you might see girls who are out on the street, like, and they just want to randomly do something on a pole on the street, like a street light pole or whatever, post, like, or you're in a playground, whether or not you're able to execute certain things on different poles depends on the size and the material, okay? So you have brass poles in a strip club, is to my understanding what they have. My pole is chrome. The chrome poles are slippery. I've had this pole since like 2014. Just ordered a new one, okay? That's made from a different material, but you have stainless steels, with my understanding, were the poles that were in the studios. And the stainless steel pole, to me, I stick to the stainless steel pole a lot better than the chrome, right? And then you have poles that are powdered and poles that are made from silicone. So if you feel like you're slipping, like, you know, there's many times I want to do a move, but then I feel like, I don't know that I have I'm not sure that my grip is super strong. And so I'm not dancing with my full confidence, because I'm like, the last thing I want to do is be confident and slip and bust my head. So you want to feel that you got that good grip, right? So that's why I'm like, you know what? Got a new pole. I got a silicone pole, and I'm gonna see how that works. And I also want a stainless steel pole, so I might end up with like 3 poles. Then I'm like, you know what? I should start teaching classes again. We're doing pole parties. But okay, let me get back on point. So then you have dancing on the floor. A lot of times, and this is why I respect women so much, like the pole dancers, the strippers, the whole nine. Because on the floor, for me, I need knee pads, okay? I got bony knees, okay? My knees be digging into the damn ground, right? And so I could get on the floor and be like, okay, I want to do something, a sexy movement, but then my knees fucking hurt. And when your knees, my floors are wood, right? So sometimes it could be different if you're in a studio and you have a certain floor, but still, in general, I need knee pads. Like, unless I'm on a bed, and I don't dance on the bed, okay? Well, if I'm pole dancing, like the floor is too hard, I need knee pads. Because like otherwise the pain stops me from being able to execute the move with like grace and sexiness, because I'm like, I'm in pain, I'll jump out of the move. But then if I have knee pads on, when I get on the pole, I can't stick, because like when you're climbing the pole, your knees grip the pole. But if I have knee pads, then I can't grip the pole with my knees. So it's just like, that's what makes it hard for me to do floor work and pole work. You know, a lot of times I have to be like, okay, I'm just going to do the floor right now, or I'm just going to do the pole right now. But trying to transition for me is hard. Now, to my pole dancers who are watching, please give me your advice. Maybe your knees aren't as bony as mine, because I see girls do it with no knee pads on, or they got knee pads on, they get on the pole. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Maybe with the silicone pole, I'll be able to get on it with the knee pads. I don't know, but it's all a challenge, okay? So, and then not only that, but then when you're on the floor, a lot of times your skin will stick to the ground. So like if I'm on the ground, I'm trying to slide or flip over or slide my body, and my skin, like right now I'm moisturized, but when I'm on the pole, my skin is dry. So I got my dry skin on the floor, and then it's like stuck in place, you know, and I can't slide the way I need to, and it's giving me like floor burn. You know, you got that issue. So there are a lot of women who, when they do floor work, they'll put on pants, or they'll put on knee pads, and they'll put on like a shirt, right? They have their arms covered, their back. They might put on like a shirt that's cut in half, right? So their stomach is out, but then their arms are covered. So they can slide around the floor and not get floor burn, not rub their skin off or get stuck in place, right? But then if you have those clothes on, I can't get on the pole, because on the pole, I need my skin to stick. If I have clothes on or moisturizer and I can't stick to the pole the way I need to, then I'm going to slip. So, to my dancers out there, please tell me what the hell you do. Because, I mean, like, for me, I feel like I have to either do floor or pole. I can't figure out this transition. Then I feel like I got to be ashy, because if I moisturize, I'm going to slip. But I see girls who are not ashy. They don't seem to have all these issues. I don't know. But these are just real pole challenges that I'm, you know, speaking. I've been polling for years, and this is just some real shit. Another thing, as you see, I always pole barefoot. I don't like heels, but I think I'm about to try some heels. It's just that I feel like the heels that a lot of women wear now are like drag queen heels. I don't like those big high platform 6, 8, 9 inch heels. My legs are long enough, okay? My legs are long enough. I just told you, I don't have enough space. So now I put on 6, 7 inch heels, I'm really not gonna have no damn space. And I don't wanna kick the ceiling when I'm going upside down, because ain't nobody trying to get injured. Okay, pole injuries are real. I got injured, the injury that I had, I ripped my navel ring out of my stomach 3 years ago on my pole, and it's on video too. Ooh, never showed it, it was so traumatizing. I was on the pole trying to do pull-ups, right, on the pole, and I was on the floor, close to the floor, and there's like a little ridge in the bottom of my pole, and my stomach was against it, right, and I'm like pulling myself up, and my navel ring got stuck in this ridge on the pole, and it ripped it out. Like, didn't rip it completely out. My whole stomach was mangled, and it was bloody and cut up and disgusting, and it was so painful. Like, you have no idea. I made a whole video about that. I won't get into it, but that was pretty traumatizing. Okay. And then I couldn't hardly move because, you know, you need your abs for everything. You need your abs to get in and out of bed. You need your abs to laugh, to skate, to have sex, whatever. I couldn't do anything because my shit was just all messed up, right? And I kept thinking to myself, it would have been so much worse if that happened when I was upside down or I was up on the pole, you know. So I'm just not trying to like fall and hit my head. I'm not trying to kick the ceiling. But when you have on heels, there's certain moves that are easier to do. Because like when you're on the floor, it's not going to hurt your feet the same. There's ways you can slide on the floor with heels that you can't do when you're barefoot unless you're putting leg warmers on. So I feel like I'm going to try, well, number one, I'm trying a new pole. And number two, I think I'm going to try heels soon. So you guys might see me in some heels soon, maybe. I'm not sure if the heels are going to go good with the wood floor though. See, that's the other thing that matters. It's the floor you have. It's a bunch of factors that goes into pole, okay? The temperature, because the pole can't be too cold, it can't be too hot, it can't be too humid. So it's just a lot of things, right? A lot of us use gripping agents to stick to the pole. And, you know, that's why I had to get a new one, because some of the gripping agents I was using, it's like my hands would be so stuck to the pole. Because the thing about pole is, for certain, you want to have a good grip, because if you don't, if you're sliding, you won't be able to hold the move as long. You won't be able to hold it in transition, you know. So having a good grip is essential. But if your grip is so strong that it's like your hands are glued to the damn pole or your leg is glued to the pole, you can't transition easily. Because the transition from one move to the next, you have to have a good grip and let go and do this and slide. And you have to have a good grip and be able to slide when you need to. A lot of moves require you to also slide when you need to. So if you're too stuck, okay, you can't do that. And then you could hurt yourself. Because to execute a certain move, maybe your arm needs to slide down. But your arm is stuck in place and it won't slide. Now you're trying to execute something, you put the wrong stress on your arm and your arm hurts. So it's a lot that goes into it. And this is the reason why when people used to ask me, oh, do you compete? Would you compete? I'm not built for that competition life. You just see me just practicing, okay? And maybe if you give me a year, you'll see a lot of progress. If I take myself back to the studio, because like I told you, I can't do a lot of things here, master some things, get a different pole, get over some fear factor, get my conditioning up, then you might see like, okay, like I feel like I'm just basic right now, okay? And I'm just telling you, there's a lot that goes into pole. And like I said, a lot of these moves are scary as hell, okay? And you just want to know you have a good grip. So, you know, I tend to pull till my body shuts down, because today I felt like, oh, I'm not done. There's more stuff I want to do, but my body just couldn't do it anymore, right? It just couldn't do it anymore. And that's what strength training is, going into fatigue. Fatigue is not when you're like, oh, this burns, it burns, and I don't feel like feeling my muscles burn anymore. That's what I call mental fatigue. That's not muscular fatigue. True fatigue is when your body cannot do anymore. Like you're trying. Your mind is saying yes, and your body is saying no, I cannot do it again with the proper technique. You don't want to do another rep with bad techniques. So sometimes people are in the gym and they're doing bicep curls, right? If you're doing bicep curls, standing or sitting, you want to have your chest out, shoulders back, abs engaged, neutral hips, right? And the only thing that's moving is your biceps. So you're coming all the way up, squeezing, and coming down with control, right? This is how you do bicep curls, right? You're not like this, doing them, and you're not like, Whenever you see somebody swinging and using momentum, that's wrong. If you can't do a move without using momentum and throwing things and swinging things, and then it's too heavy for you. So that's any exercise you're doing in life. The second that you feel like you gotta swing, throw your hips, or do something, then you're done. So that's what fatigue is. Fatigue is when you can no longer do another rep with the proper technique. Because every rep is proper technique. That's a must. That's an always. That's why people get injured doing CrossFit. because they're doing, I'm going to do a whole video about CrossFit. Let me write this down. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Because I don't want to get into that scientific stuff right now. I'm going to do that on my page, The Body Scientist. So join me over there for that. But that's the thing about CrossFit is that they'll be doing certain exercises that are dangerous, strength exercises that require longer rest times, and they're not resting for as long as they need to. And then they attempt to do it again, and they injure themselves. So one of the reasons why there's a low injury rate in pole, even though a lot of stuff in pole is dangerous, there's a low injury rate because of how pole instructors teach. It's progressive overload. So you master this, you're able to do this correctly, now we learn this, now we learn this, now we make it a little bit harder, now we do it with one hand. And then when they teach you, when you learn moves that are upside down and dangerous, pole instructors spot you. And this is why I have so much respect for strippers, because a lot of them, at least all the ones I've known, that's not how they learned, okay? How the hell they learn how to do the moves that they do with no teachers, no instructors, talking about they learned at the club, they're doing death-defying tricks. And I have nothing but respect for them, black strippers in particular, because people have no idea how hard it is, what they do. The girls in Atlanta, the girls in Miami, the girls in Houston, because, oh yeah, that's the other component, okay? Depending on what style of pole dancing you're doing, there's different styles. But if you're doing the black girl inspired style, because now everybody does this, but it's definitely came from black girls. If you're doing the black girl inspired version of pole, then there's the twerk component. And I always say I can shake my ass, but I'm not a twerker, right? So like I've studied a lot of stuff from the Caribbean, from South America. So it could be Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Cuba, you know, all of those countries, you know, when they move the hips, when they do hip-centered dances, they actually move the hips some kind of way, okay? When you're twerking and doing Bounce from New Orleans, the Black American girl booty dances, to me they're amazing because they're doing a whole lot with their ass, but their hips aren't moving, and I can't figure that out, okay? Or like their booty is popping. I feel like when my butt cheeks pop, I feel like it makes my body move all over the place. Like it's hard for me to keep my body still. Maybe it's just the size of my glutes or I don't know, or the power behind them. I don't know. But I feel like for me, my body is like I feel like the way I see other girls do it, I just can't do it that way. And maybe it's just because everybody is different. I don't know, but I'm just saying what black strippers do and the type of twerking booty work they do, very impressive, very difficult. Don't downplay that shit. So that in itself is difficult. Just twerking and all that stuff in itself is difficult. Then a headstand and a handstand is difficult within itself. And you got doing splits is difficult within itself. And you got black strippers who are twerking in a handstand, okay? They are contortionists, they are gymnasts, they are getting on the pole, they're not ashies, I don't know what the hell they put on their skin. Some strippers before told me that they use something called dry oil. I don't really know what that is. But, you know, they're getting on the pole and these, you know, holding on to it with their legs in ways that's already complicated. And then they start bopping their head really hard, which is hard enough just to hold those moves, let alone start bopping your head. And that's not something I've seen people in the pole world do, okay? So pole dance and like what black strippers do is two different, like when you look at how they execute, it's different. And as somebody who has a background in sports science and is a strength and conditioning coach and is a dancer and is a multi-sport athlete or was a multi-sport athlete, I see the difficulty, okay? It's something that I would have to do a whole video explaining, but I understand the true difficulty in what black strippers do, okay? Just like the kids that, you know, the kids that be on the train in New York, okay, flipping off the ceiling and flipping up, that shit's hard. There's nobody that took no classes that could do that, but they taught themselves. That you get all the props for that to me. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with breakers. They didn't take headstand 101 or yoga 101. They started spinning their head on the concrete. Stuff like that. Mad respect. Anyhow, so I be feeling like, so I just went through all these different challenges. I be feeling like, well, I got all these problems and other people don't. So I don't know. So I'm trying to work through it. So anybody that has advice for me, please give me whatever advice. What do you put on your skin? How do you not look ashy? What kind of pole are you using? What about the floor? All of that. But until then, I'm going to keep practicing. The other thing that's hard too is like, you know, I've studied so many different kinds of dance in my life. Whenever you're freestyling, you always have to get into like you have to get into a zone. I have to get into a zone, right? With any type of dance. Feeling the music, get into the zone. But in a pole is difficult because the transitions you have to be thinking beforehand, like a few steps before. What are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? In order for the transitions to be smooth, or to even be able to do the move that you're thinking about. You have to, each move is setting up for the next move. That's the thing about pole. And I'm not really the best at the freestyle thing, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, so there's that challenge. Then there's a challenge of, you know, dancing in the front, dancing in the back. Like, I don't know what I look like from behind, so I'll be doing things, and then I see on video, and I'm like, oh, I would have done this different, or I don't like this, but I can't see myself. I can't see how I look like from the back when I'm dancing, you know. And when you're spinning, you can't see what the hell you look like. And when you're upside down, okay, even if there's mirrors all around you, and being upside down, like, I'm more used to it now, but that can be super disorienting, okay? Super, because you don't know what's right, what's left, what's this, what's that, and you don't want to fall, you know what I'm saying? So being upside down, and then being upside down and spinning, when I first started doing spin pole, I used to get so nauseous, okay? I remember I would spin on it for 15 seconds and feel like I was going to throw up for the next hour, and I hated it. But then you get used to it, okay? But when people first try that spin pole shit, it's not easy. And it definitely is sickening. And then to be upside down and spinning. Then to get off the pole, now I'm not dizzy when I get off the pole, but I remember when I first started doing it, when I first got off the pole, I'd be dizzy. So I couldn't just get off the pole and start dancing because I'd be so disoriented. I'm like so freaking dizzy. You know, then you get used to it. The thing is too about the pain. Okay, a lot of people don't realize how painful it is. Like, I don't have bruises because I don't bruise easily. I do not bruise easily, okay? Never bruise easily. But for people who do bruise easily, who might be lighter or whatever, they just bruise easily, they have a lot of bruises in their body from the pole. So you don't see it on me, but it's like with there's a lot of moves that you do where the thighs, it's burning, and especially if my skin is too dry, then it's like stuck, and it's like stuck and pulling, and sometimes I can't do the next move. I have to get out of it because it just hurts too much. Or like sliding down the pole. When you first start the pole, you slide down the pole, or you squeeze the pole with your thighs, like, that shit hurts. Then you get used to it. Then you learn something else that hurts. Then you get used to it. But a lot of it is actually very painful. And that's another thing people don't realize is just that once people get more into the poling, you just get used to the pain and you kind of get numb to it. But then if you don't do it for a while, it's like you're starting back from scratch again. And then when I used to pole a lot, I used to have calluses on my hand all the time. So my hands were always very smooth. But when I was, you know, poling a lot, which I'm about to be back on that shit, but I definitely had calluses, and it was like, I used to hate that because I'm like, I always had such soft hands, and now if I want to massage somebody, I'm going to be scratching with my calluses. But you need those calluses for the pole. You know, the pole will cause it, and you need them. Same thing with the feet, with dancers who dance barefoot. Like when you're doing Afro-Caribbean dances and you're dancing barefoot all the time. And when you don't do it for a while and you don't have any calluses on your feet, and then you do it, sometimes your feet, like, they like cut. Like your pinky toe, underneath it, you'll have a cut or something. Or it's like it's the calluses, you know, it's a toughening of the skin to be able to endure that, you know. And so, yeah, but that's that. That's that. So I think, so it was all those things that I mentioned, and in the midst of all of that, trying to be like, oh, let me try to be sexy, or let me try to be graceful. So just this, and this is the reason, you know, I made a video about why I like pole dance for women, that I recorded a few years ago. Check it out, it's on my YouTube, where I also talk about some of these things. But this is the reason why I do. It is a challenge. It's a challenge for me. I'm not where I wanted to be by now, you know. Years ago, 7 years ago, I can't believe 7 years went by so fast, like, oh my God. But 7 years ago, I had big goals for where I would be now. and I'm not there because I do so many different things. And so sometimes I get frustrated with myself. People might see me dance and think, oh, it looks nice. I look at myself and see everything wrong, see everything that I'm struggling with, and thinking like I should way progress by now. Some things I would be able to do too if I had a different pole and had more space. But I'm just back on my motivation because, you know, it helps me to transform energy and stay focused on myself and keep myself strong and functional as I age, you know. So staying connected, you know, with myself, and you know, it's to me it's an important practice. Okay, I don't do yoga, but I'll get on the pole. Okay, so anyhow, hopefully you learned something from this. If anybody has anything to contribute, suggestions, let me know. If people want to follow me on my pole journey and watch some of my practice videos, because I post some things on Instagram, but I'll post a video on Instagram after I recorded like 6 videos or a bunch of videos, and I'll post more of those practice videos on my OnlyFans page, where I post, you know, practice videos. And then in about a month, I'm gonna start trying to do little performances once I get my shit up, my shit back, my repertoire, my endurance. Okay. Anyhow, thank you for listening to me babble. I'm gonna let you guys go do what you're doing. I'm gonna go do what I do, finish drinking my shake, and get on with my day. Okay, people, have a good day. Bye.